and welcome back to our channel, Behind the Amish Curtain. I am Jenny Yoder.
And my name's Eldon Yoder.
And this episode, we would like to talk about Amish upbringing. I'm again going to interview Eldon and get his input on his upbringing because he was brought up Amish. So first question, what was it like growing up as an Amish boy?
Growing up as an Amish boy was way different. I know growing up, you did not mingle with the world, even though there was times that we would hire a taxi to go to, get groceries if it was long distance. Most times it was with a horse and buggy. So you weren't really to mingle with the world, which was the English people. And we were dressed different, totally different. It was all buttons and there was no zipper involved. You were not allowed to have a zipper. That was too much of having luxury. So yes, growing up as an Amish boy, I look back to how I was brought up. It was way different. You had chores, you had things that you had to do before play and there's things that you would have loved to have, but you knew you couldn't because of your teaching, and you wondered how it would be to, have a vehicle, or how it would be to have mom and dad to have a vehicle to where you could just go places wherever you wanted to, but still you were taught this is not, how we do life. And as an Amish boy, you had chores. You got up early in the morning, and yes, very interesting life to, and I think there's more questions that will follow this that I can answer with that. But there was no lectures in the house. There was no phone. There was no TV. There was no radio. There was nothing that alerted us when there was a storm coming in. You just looked at the clouds. There was no TV saying that there's, war or hurricanes or bad news, whatever it was. You had the English neighbor sometimes that would, stop by and let us know, or, would, just have an everyday conversation to where you would pick up that there's something going on.
But did you find a TV?
Yes, there's times that we went to make a phone call at the English neighbor that was a very good neighbor of ours. And so we would go make a phone call and ended up sitting there watching TV instead of going on home. We would sit there and watch TV, and it was interesting because so I wonder how they get that TV in the house, and how do they get that stuff on the screen, and that was back when it was still dial tone, phones. So that was way back.
What'd you watch on TV?
So there was different movies that we watched on TV, and I know Dukes of Hazzards was one. I know there was another one too, the A-Team.
Yes.
There was different ones that we would kind of make an excuse to go use the phone, but ended up staying at the house where we used the phone at to watch TV, and we started a conversation. Yes, that was kind of my story of growing up as an Amish boy, but then there's another story as I got older. But
so how many of you were there?
There was 8 boys and 1 girl. Girl was the oldest. I was in the middle of the 8 or of the 9 kids. So I was born on Mom's birthday, and I was to be the girl. And I got treated like a girl in many ways.
Okay. So what were your chores then?
Oh, my chores. Wow. So that's interesting too, because we would have to get up mornings soon after 5 o'clock when Dad would get up to go do chores. We would have to get up. There was a couple of us that either went to feed the chickens and feed the horses. I mainly had to pack lunches because there were so many of us, and it was kind of up to me to pack lunches. As I grew older, I was kind of like the girl. I cleaned, I cooked, I did all these things.
I'm grateful for that because this man can cook and clean and do laundry. It's very nice.
So anyway, so I didn't get as much of the chores, outside chores, even though I knew how to do it. I would do it. And there was times when they would go to the field, to plow, disc, or whatever, that I would help get horses out, or even, put the harness on them. To where that was quite the chore to harness. If you've never harnessed up a draft horse, let me tell you, it takes some muscles to throw a harness over a draft horse. So, and then we had pigs, we had hogs, we farrowed hogs. And
What's
then we
farrowed?
had where you have gilts that would reproduce.
Okay.
And then, you would have a farrowing house where it's a place of birthing pigs and stuff. And then we had cattle. We usually had anywhere from 80 to 90 head of cattle. And those you didn't do a whole lot except feed silage. There's a time or two that I would go to the silo and climb up the silo as a little kid. And we thought that was a lot of fun to get into the silo and, throw down silage.
That sounds dangerous.
It is if you don't watch your step. And in the wintertime, it could be very dangerous because you had warm on the inside of the silo and the moisture would create on the outside. And there's times it could be frosty on your steps, so you had to watch. But otherwise, for the most part, it was interesting to know how to do the chores when parents were gone, such as PTA meetings, school meetings, or sometimes just a church event. So you kind of had things lined out that you had to do, that you had to take responsibility of doing chores while mom and dad were gone. And on with that question, as far as chores, we probably had in the neighborhood of 30 horses.
Oh my goodness.
3 ponies, 2 cows. We'd milk the cows by hand. That was quite the challenge. And it's like I said, we had 80 to 90 head of cattle. Chickens, probably, I'm guessing in the neighborhood of 40. We had enough chickens to, provide for our family.
So now, was your family's primary source of income farming?
Yes,
Oh,
that
okay.
was pretty much back in that day. But now it would be hard for somebody to just take off on a farm just with cattle and hogs to make an income, because everything has dropped down on price as far as your retail market. But then to raise for yourself when you have your own corn, to have your own meat. We would do our own beef processing. We butchered on our own. We didn't take it to a plant or a processing plant. We did everything on our own, which was interesting because us as little kids, we would stand there and we would like, we're gonna eat this stuff, So it was a good experience for us as little kids.
So did you have a bathroom in the house?
Yes, we did have one bathroom in the house, no shower in the bathroom. Now, we had a shower in the basement. If you were dirty enough, you got to go down there, like if you got caught in the mud or manure or whatever, and then you went down into the basement to shower. But yeah, right at first, I still remember going out to the outhouse. We used to have a outhouse that was designed for us to go out and use the bathroom. If you couldn't wait for the one inside with 9 kids and the parents, then you had to go outside. You had to use the one outside.
You got to do what you got to do.
Amen.
All right, so I know that there's a particular incident that happened, speaking of dangerous and on the farm, when you were 5 years old. What was that incident?
You're talking about my little finger, how I lost my finger?
Hold that up so everyone can see.
That was not on our farm. It was on another farm.
This is not a video like trick or optical illusion. He's actually missing his pinky finger.
Yes, and I can show you a story of how you would go through a line where you're shaking hands with English people, and they would look at you like, when you shake hands with them, they're like, "Were you Amish at one time?" And I'm like, "Yeah, why do you ask?" And then they're like, "Well, most of the Amish, usually have a finger missing, a leg missing, or something missing in their body parts." And I'm like, "Oh my goodness!" But Anyway, yeah, when I was a little kid, 5 years old, me and my cousin were playing with a antique corn sheller, which is turned by hand. And so we were feeding that corn in there, pretty good ear corn, and the cob comes out on the end, and the shell corn goes down to the bottom. And all of a sudden, the cobs were not coming out on the other end. So, everything come to a stop. So I went to the end to see what was going on. As a 5-year-old, I put my hand in there, and there was snow on the ground. It was cold out. I don't remember how cold it was, but it was cold enough that it had just some fresh snow that night. And so I reached back there with my gloves on, and I was going to get some of those cobs out that weren't coming on out. And as you picture, there's like cogs or spikes that bring those cobs out. And I put my hand in there to get those out. In the meantime, my cousin turned that crank backwards, and it pinched my finger and in two places. And so the first spot, it literally just snapped it off. The second one was just hanging there by the skin.
Oh my goodness.
So they rushed me to the hospital. We didn't call the ambulance, and none of us had any taxi there. So this is at a Amish hen party. It would have been on Dad's side. So we just went out on the highway, and we stopped the vehicle, and we jumped in, and we rushed for the hospital. And to back it up a little bit, I didn't really go running for the house. I just knew that I had something wrong with my finger, and I was walking to the house, but I left a trail on the snow exactly where I was going. And so, come to the hospital. They put me down. They were going to have surgery and all this kind of stuff, and I hated nurses. I hated needles, and I never wanted to be close to nurses. As a 5-year-old boy, I don't know why, that was just in me. I hated nurses. So when they put me to bed and they put me out, they thought they had me out, and I was a person that clung on to Mom. Wherever she went, I was at. And so when they thought they had me out, had me calm down and sedated me, I discovered that nobody was in my room. And so I tore everything loose that they had to sedate me and went running down the hall screaming for Mom. And it took 5 nurses to get me back into bed. It took 5 nurses to hold me down. I was determined I was not going to stay at the hospital. I'm okay. I'm out of here. So that was kind of my story on that incident. And to the day, I really don't think about it. But when I shake hands with somebody, they always ask, "Man, do you always grip that hard?" And I think it's because I don't have that little finger.
Interesting. Okay, so were you allowed to play after school and chores, and what did you play?
Yes, after the chores was done. Normally when we would come home from school, we would have cornbread, milk, and honey. Mm-hmm. And, depending on the season, we might have had some fresh strawberries to put on there. But otherwise, we were not to eat much. To us, that was a bunch because we didn't just have one pan of cornbread. We had 2 pans because one pan was normally not enough. 9 kids in the house. So after we were done eating, we were to get, changed. If we had homework was to be done too, but chores was first, and then after chores, you came in and did your homework. There's times that we did not come in after homework was, or after chores was done, and homework was to be done, or, to be worked on. Sometimes we got caught out, playing pitch and catch, or, playing knockout fly out back where, parents didn't see us. Oh. However, that didn't happen very often. You got scolded for it. So then after the chores, after homework, normally we would play softball. There was enough of us, we could play, around town in softball. As far as football, yeah, we would play football, just touch. We didn't play tackle. We didn't get quite that rough. Soccer was something that we really loved. We all enjoyed that. Then when it was cold, snowy, wet, rainy outside, we would go up to the hayloft, the barn, where there was a big space that might have been empty, and then we would play softball up there. and we would hit the ball. We had our bases that we made, or we also had a basketball court up there. So we had our place that we could go play if it got nasty outside.
Wow.
But all these things had to, you could do that after work was done. We would, churn and make our own butter. We would make our own cottage cheese. All these things had to be done before you could go play. And we would get so tired of making butter. Oh, we would make butter and more butter. And people would buy this stuff just like it's really good. And we didn't think it was that good. We hated the smell of fresh butter that was made. And still, we would make butter. But it was good for us.
Did you make ice cream?
Yes, we did make a lot of homemade ice cream. Homemade ice cream. Yes, it was from scratch, not this, stuff that you buy that's already mixed. Even though it's good, I like the Prairie Farms mix that they have, but is it good for my belly? Probably not.
So, what are positive aspects of your upbringing, and where do you think your upbringing fell short?
I'm not sure how to answer about the fell short, but I do appreciate my parents teaching me work before play, and you dressed up. You always try to put in your shirt tail. You didn't walk around with your shirt tail hanging out the back, hanging out front. You tried to keep neat, be neat. And I appreciate all that, even though I would never go back to, living that kind of lifestyle. But it was good upbringing. It was good upbringing. It was good about the integrity, honesty of working 8 full days of work, not to slumber or not to just lay around. We didn't have a TV to watch. We didn't have a radio to listen to. We didn't know how to dance and all this kind of stuff. So as far as how it would have went wrong, that will be later in the time frame when I come to the time of Rumspringa, which is when you turn 16, is another bracket or another stage of life.
Did you get hugs and kisses growing up?
No. No, hugs and kisses were not acceptable in the house where we lived at. You didn't see that. You didn't see the parents do that.
And your parents didn't do that?
And my parents did not do that. We never seen a what's the word that I want to say, example of our parents being in love, loving each other, or even Christ-like. We did not see that. And I know there was a lot of drama that went on in my younger childhood life, that there's things that I probably never will forget. And it was a journey to go through life knowing that these things happen, and you wonder, well, how can I change this? Or is it my fault that the parents are, the way they are? So what was the end of that question, and how?
Well, the positive aspects and how it fell short. So I think it sounds like it fell short on the affection end of it.
Yes.
Loving affection. But all in all, it sounds like it was a stable upbringing. I think stability would be the biggest word for the Amish upbringing. So I did want to share scripture related to bringing up a child. I think that's really important. So we have Proverbs 22, verse 6. Train up a child in the way he should go. Even when he is old, he will not depart from it.
That is so true. There was another thing that I wanted to add, and that was about as we went to school, we didn't have a school bus, and we didn't have bikes. We did not have bicycles. I still remember when Mom bought the first bicycle, and we would have to take turns riding this bicycle. And still, we were told that we were rebellious, or our parents were rebellious, because we're not to have air-tired stuff. You're not to have anything that's air-tired. That's too convenient. So when we thought we had a bicycle, man, we were taking turns, and we would always say, our brother's taking too much time to ride the bike. It's my turn, and we would, have an awesome time with that. And then, yes, as far as going to school, we would have to hitch up a pony with a double-seated buggy. It's a pony buggy. It's a smaller version, not the big one. And yes, there was 6 and 7 of us that would jump on that buggy, and we would be going to school every morning and every night, except for Saturday, Sunday. So
the pony would sit there all day?
In the barn. I mean, you would unhitch it, and then you would
barn.
bring it, grain and hay over lunch. You would go out and feed your horse while you're in school. This was parochial school, not public.
Right.
I went public 2 years, and they thought that the public was too wild, too rough. We're going to the parochial. So we went to parochial school, and growing up as a child, you would hear how much it would cost to take your kids to parochial school. And then back then, it was around $800 per child. Now it's more like $1,200 and $1,300 per child. So it's increased, but like I said, I'm still grateful for my upbringing of being responsible to make sure that your pony's harnessed properly, hitched up properly, tied up properly. You had to learn how to tie up a pony because ponies are smart. They will come loose and they will take off.
All right. Well, that's fun. I think that has made a full episode here. So, that's all I have. And if you have anything else.
No, enjoy. And I know we have much more to talk about.
Absolutely. Keep your questions coming. I know that we do have episodes that we're producing that will answer questions as we go along. We did get a couple of questions recently. Actually, I do want to add this. My niece asked, how do you know your horse when it's the same color in the pasture?
That is a good question, because back in the day, I would know all the buggies that went down the road. You knew the horses and the buggies that went past your house. You knew the people in your church district. And you could tell, so-and-so neighbor's coming down the road, or so-and-so person is, the preacher, the deacon, or whoever. You knew their buggies. You knew the horses.
It'd be kind of like a car.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah, you know what kind of car they drive.
Yep.
All right. Well, that's all we have. So be blessed, and we'll talk to you later.
Keep smiling. Jesus loves you.